Hello, Packers fans, and welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined by Ryan Wood. We are here in Lambeau, where the Packers not too long ago finished out a 17-0 win over the Seattle Seahawks. It is their first shutout win since 2018.
Week four.
Week 4.
Buffalo
when they shut out
Bills.
the Buffalo Bills. Do you remember the final score of that game?
22-0, and you know what? That game will be remembered as the game that Aaron Rodgers went into the media auditorium right after and called out Mike McCarthy's plan, for lack of a better word. And that was, in a lot of ways, when you look back, Cassidy, it was kind of the beginning of the end of the Mike McCarthy era.
Okay.
Wasn't a 22-0 win. Aaron Rodgers kind of a big deal to today, too.
Isn't that crazy in such a low-scoring game?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a game where he technically was not even responsible for a touchdown. That belonged completely to A.J. Dillon tonight. So before we get into Aaron Rodgers, because we know that's going to be a whole discussion, let's touch on A.J. Dillon. Did that without Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones went out with a knee. Sorry, that was a test. There were a lot of injuries tonight.
There were.
With a knee. Don't know his full status just yet. And he and A.J. Dillon had been sort of splitting a lot of the snaps. A.J. Dillon had actually gotten more up to that point. And then when he went out, Dillon told us after the game that Aaron Jones looked at him and said, take it from here. Like, it's on you. Finish it off. And he did just that, scoring the only 2 touchdowns in the entire game. How big of a night was this for A.J. Dillon, especially now knowing you're probably going to have to rely on him a lot more moving forward?
Yeah, well, first things first, Adam Schefter did report during the game that it's not an ACL, it's an MCL. So we'll see when that becomes official. Matt LaFleur had no details on the injury immediately after the game. Hopefully we'll hear from him tomorrow on that. But certainly for the Packers, that's a huge deal because that's a season changer. Mm-hmm. If Aaron Jones isn't coming back, if it's an ACL, that's a season changer. If he's coming back, A.J. Dillon can keep the ship afloat for a few weeks, and that's what he'll have to do because they don't have Kylan Hill either. So this is going to be the A.J. Dillon show, and tonight was the A.J. Dillon show. We've seen, obviously, last year outrushing Derrick Henry late in the season on the same field. We've seen flashes of really solid play, really terrific play from A.J. Dillon, and he's just getting better and better. He's a second-year player, second-round pick that is blossoming as his pedigree says that he should. Matt LaFleur talking tonight, A.J. Dillon didn't get a lot of pass-catching opportunities at Boston College. Look what he's doing now, the 50-yard screen. He's not just a power guy. His 2 short-yardage touchdowns tonight, both were power. But on that 50-yard screen, he beat the Seahawks defense to the sideline and was able to use his speed down the sideline in a way that you just don't see from 250-pound backs. And by the way, Cassie, speaking of 250-pound backs, how about that Lambeau leap where he basically leapt over the wall? Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
He went head first into the crowd. He even thanked the fans afterwards for catching him and not letting him take a nosedive there. Matt LaFleur, to your point, said after tonight, he said, I don't think anyone's going to be overlooking him as a weapon out of the backfield anymore. Now, on one hand, that means now opponents know what they need to shut down. But on the other hand, could this be a sneaky part of this offense that we haven't really seen come to fruition yet?
Yeah, I think that especially in the next few weeks while Aaron Jones is out, you're going to see the Packers try to be creative in how they get A.J. Dillon the ball because he is a playmaker. He is an all-purpose back. He's the type of running back that's speed and power. He's not just one. So a guy like that with that kind of physical, athletic attributes and that skill set, you can use in a lot of different ways, and they're going to have to do that without Aaron Jones now.
Randy Clancy said it was a good performance, but it's not enough. Fair. Something that Matt LaFleur said after the game that I think also stands out is, you always have to find different ways to win in this league. Tonight, they won with their defense.
And it wasn't ever going to be pretty on offense. Keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers didn't take a single practice rep the entire week. Mm-hmm. That's awfully hard to do. That's the rarest of challenge in this.
Something he admitted to after the game.
Yeah.
He said it was really, really weird
and
difficult, and said he credited Matt LaFleur for calling a game plan in such a way in the first quarter to ease him back into it.
Yeah, he said it was not ideal, and he was pretty candid about that. He said that he told Matt LaFleur before the game it was going to be kind of Ron Burgundy-ish.
Yes.
And that he was going to have to
everything you say.
Verbatim, literally word for word, everything that's said, he's going to have to repeat. And so, I don't think it was ever going to look great on offense. It's hard when you don't have your quarterback on the
Mhm.
practice field for it. And you saw that he missed the MVS throw, 41 yards, yes, but that was a touchdown that he missed. The next drive, he missed the third down throw to Alan Lazard, where he was open down the middle of the field. He had his worst decision in any game so far this season on the interception. At the end, he just threw it up like he was Jordan Love. I mean, like he was a first year starter. You don't see that from Aaron Rodgers. Only a second red zone pick this season. So yeah, you saw a lot of rust tonight, and they still won 17-0. Take the win. It's not going to look like that the rest of the season offensively. And that defense, think about that defense. It's pretty good.
Over the last 3 games, and I know that Seattle and the Kansas City Chiefs are not necessarily what they've been, but that's still Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. They held them to a total of 34 points. And within those 34 points, 1 touchdown pass between those 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's pretty
good.
The
secondary is looking like they're legit.
It's pretty good. And this was the magnum opus. Look, Russell Wilson came back too soon. Like you got, I mean, obviously he's not Russell Wilson yet. He came back after missing only 3 games. The initial forecast with that injury, that finger injury, he was supposed to miss 6. So he cut his recovery time in half and came back. That might have had something to do with it. But to your point, it's not just Russell Wilson. It's 3 weeks ago, there were serious, legitimate questions on what, this defense is playing well, but it's a little different when you're not going against Taylor Heineke. It's a little different when you're going against the upper echelon quarterbacks and you knew they were coming. Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson combined for 1 touchdown pass. Pretty good.
Yeah. And it seemed like, at least from my opinion or from my view, and this, until a couple of weeks ago was an outsider's view, that this secondary was very much a work in progress. And it was almost like a patch job. Oh, this guy went out, just put this guy here. This guy went out, just put this guy here. Put this guy here to stop the bleeding, and let's get to the next draft. Now you're starting to see a unit really start to figure out how to play together and play off of each other, because that's so much of the secondary's chemistry, knowing what the other guy's going to do. Who kind of deserves the credit for that the most?
Well, I think Joe Barry's done a really good job with the scheme. I think Aaron Rodgers put it as succinctly as I've heard yet, saying the what makes Joe Barry's scheme special is that it can stop the run with a light box while playing 2 shell. And so it really it has more athleticism on the back end for playing, obviously coverage, but up front it's heavy at the defensive line. A lot of 5 defensive line looks, and you have that 1 inside linebacker and then 5 DBs on the back end. But it's accomplishing both. The other thing with this defense, and Aaron Rodgers pointed this out, that there's been Packers defenses over the last decade that have been really opportunistic and good situationally, but give up a lot of yards. And then there's been good Packers defenses when it comes to yards, just haven't been a lot of playmakers. This Packers defense, you look at the Kevin King interception tonight in the 1 red zone trip. Adrian Amos looked like the intended receiver on his interception.
And his second one that he broke up.
Yeah, that very, very nearly. I mean, he was kind of like a flying squirrel in midair trying to get that ball, and almost made an athletic play. This is a really opportunistic defense that you're seeing week in and week out, and it's stingy, and it doesn't give up much. Cassie, I was thinking during the game, just imagine they get Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith back. I mean, then you're adding all-pro impact at edge rusher and corner. You have depth at both spots. Your safeties with Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage are always in the right place. They don't get beat deep with regularity. You've got impact with Kenny Clark on the interior defensive line. You got impact with Devondre Campbell on the second level inside. That is a bona fide top 10, at least, maybe top 5 defense. It is a really, really good group there.
On the flip side of that, though, they lost Rashawn Gary and Whitney Merciless tonight. Not sure how long for. Asked Matt LaFleur afterwards. He said, have no news for you tonight. So we probably won't know more for sure until tomorrow. Did it look that serious to you? To me, Gary's looked more serious.
Well, he couldn't really use his right arm, so that's a concern. And if it's a biceps injury, those things can last a long time. A biceps cost B.J. Raji all the 2015 season. Those can be devastating injuries. So you hope that he's okay, because Rashawn Gary is really ascending right now. Already 5.5 sacks, and his 10th game. He had 5 sacks all last season in 15 games, so he's already at a career high. Only 2 sacks his rookie season. So you've seen steady progress from the 12th overall pick in 2019, and he keeps getting better. So for his own sake, you hope that there's not an injury that kind of thwarts that progress.
And then Merciless had a bicep injury as well when he was trying to sack Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson came out of it in a classic Russell Wilson play, but you immediately saw Whitney go down and sort of just hold his arm. Can this defense afford to lose those two and leave? I think Levi asked if they're gone, is Preston Smith your only proven edge guy?
Yeah, Preston Smith and Jonathan Garvin's played okay. He's not a guy that maybe you want to go through an entire game with playing all the snaps, but he's been a good depth guy. Situationally, he's given good depth. It's obviously very thin, and it's obviously not ideal. I think they still win a lot of games if they are without Rashawn Gary and Whitney Merciless for a long time. But I also think that they're hoping Darius Smith comes back as quickly as possible. And they're looking again outside the organization to maybe fill some spots because they're going to be really thin there. So it's not an ideal situation. Ultimately, it's one I think that they'll overcome, at least for the most part, in the immediate future. It's more of a long-term concern if it's a long-term injury. There
was a question somewhere in here, and I can't find it now, so I apologize to whoever asked it. But asked perhaps the question that got overlooked because this was a win. What is it coaches always say? It's easier to fix mistakes after a win. Are you worried about Mason Crosby?
Oh, that's an issue. My goodness. He's got 7 missed field goals.
Snap was fine tonight.
Yeah, it was fine. He looks like a kicker that's not comfortable, and why would he be? Because the operation's been a mess the entire season. So why would you be comfortable as a kicker when it's never felt comfortable? 7 missed kicks, missed field goals, 8 missed kicks overall with the extra point. He's 14 of 21. Numbers are hard. 14 of 21. Score. Yeah, I know, right? 14 of 21 on the season. That's really, really bad.
14 of 21 will lose you a game on the scoreboard, and it'll lose you a game if that's your kicker.
In January, you don't want to be like that in January. Look, that 2 out of every 3 kicks he's making. Like that's not enough. And tonight, that it's a 42 yard chip shot, barely an extra point. Extra point's 33 yards. You expect to make anything for 45 in, almost automatic. And it is far from automatic on that operation. January is the concern. They're still going to win games if even clearly proof's in the pudding. They're 8-2 and it's been a mess there. But if a season rides on that, I mean, I don't think there's a single Packers fan that's going to feel comfortable in that moment. If that's the case, they've got to get it fixed. I don't know if they're going to. This is week 10, and it's not fixed, not even close to fixed. I don't know in the next several weeks how that changes.
And that not only can hurt you by taking points off the board, it changes the way you call a game.
Yeah.
Because there were times tonight that they get down into the red zone, and I don't have the box score in front of me to remember their exact red zone completion percentage. But they got down into the red zone and went for it on 4th down, which I know analytics push you more and more to go for it on 4th down. But if you're down in the red zone, 9 times out of 10, you take those points, especially in a game that was 3-0 until we were winding down and the sun had set long before. So a 3-0 game, you want those points. Yeah. And Matt LaFleur's having to go for it on 4th down in the red zone and not get it. I'm trying to remember. Am I making this up? I'm trying to remember now if I'm remembering this red zone trip wrong. It changes the way you call a game when you can't trust your kicker.
Right. In general, this was a slugfest game. And, oh, by the way, January has a lot of those, a lot of slugfest games. Ordinarily, if it's a regular game, at this point you're going to go from 4th down. But certainly in a game like this where points are at a premium, this is the type of game where you're going to want to have confidence in your field goal unit, and they just don't right now.
Right. On the other side of the special teams, Amari Rodgers with a better night than he had versus Kansas City. That may be relative to what
better night than that is a low bar. Yeah, I mean,
relative to what he had done. Do you at least see him? Is his trajectory going upward?
I think it's like this right now. I don't know. Here's the thing with Amari Rodgers.
Returns tonight.
He did, but like he flattens everything east and west. Like, I've not seen him take a punt return this way, vertical,
where he had grass,
north south. It hasn't happened. Like it's all this way. In this league, you have to field the punt and you have to get north. That's what you have to do.
And I think so often too, and maybe this is just a rookie mindset still coming out of college where it is a little bit different. But you always are taught when you're younger, like on a return, the key is to get the edge. Find the edge, find the seam, ride the sideline. But he had, to your point, he had grass up the front, like north and south. He could have gone that way. And then there was also a punt where he waved it off, he let it go, and he had it, but it was on the other side of the field. And instead of like going forward, I don't even remember the exact details. I just remember thinking that was a bad decision because it ended up getting downed at the 8-yard line.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like he never saw where it was.
I don't know if the Packers want him anywhere near a punt inside the 10, though, at this point. I mean, when he's not confident to field the punt, it was a bit of a deke. I mean, he tried to deke the defense, and it didn't roll into the end zone, but he didn't muff it either. The 16-yard punt return that he had, which might be his longest of the season, you look at that and you're like, oh, he got 16 yards. That's a good punt return, which, hey, 16 yards is a lot for a punt return.
But he stutter-stepped at the beginning.
He bubbled it. He flattened it left on his way. That is the type of punt, like the Seahawks completely out-punted their coverage on that. That's the type of punt return you might actually take to the house. There was nobody around. If you get north and south like a cannon, if you just burst straight ahead, you might actually be able to beat the coverage and take that to the house. When you go flat, you get 16 yards. I mean, it's every single punt return, and he's got to figure out how to go north-south on that.
John asked, he's a rookie, so who's working with him?
Maurice Drayton, your special teams coordinator, and clearly they don't have anyone else because he's had job security, right?
Yeah.
Like if they had anyone else at this point, they probably would be there. So,
when they first ran out on the field, Randall Cobb went down to the opposite field goal, and I guess that was like part of his pregame ritual. I didn't know that, but at first I thought, oh, they're putting him back there.
Right.
He's going to return it.
Randall Cobb would be the other person,
tweets.
but that's the whole point. Randall Cobb's your backup punt returner. And yes, from a hand standpoint, if it gets that bad, which is not yet, but if it gets that bad where you literally cannot trust at all Amari Rodgers to field a punt, period, if it's multiple muffs and just stacking upon each other itself, I think at some point you might see Randall Cobb if that happens, but he's not getting yards.
I'll let them pay me $10,000 to stand back there and signal for a fair
Catching
catch.
would be the hard part, though. I don't think I could do that.
I just signal for a fair catch every time.
Yeah.
Just get
Would
out
you
of
catch
there.
it?
Heck no.
I wouldn't either.
Just let it roll.
I just like let it go and go behind me.
Like,
I
wasn't going to be able to bring that one out. No, let it roll.
But you know what? I'm not paid to field a punt either.
Exactly. That is a very good point. Let's see. Somebody else in here asked a very good question, I think, in reference to tonight. The talent on defense is pretty much the same as last year. Is Joe Barry and the new scheme making that much of a difference?
It's less than last year. They don't have Jair Alexander. They don't have Zadarius Smith.
That's true.
It's not even close to talent last year. They have more depth than they did a year ago. They do have more depth. A guy like Rasul Douglas, a guy like Whitney Merciless coming in, those guys are good, like veteran journeyman at this point. I mean, Whitney Merciless is obviously a former star, but at this point, veteran depth guys. So they have that. And I think it helps when you have injuries to plug in a guy like that. I think this scheme's been pretty darn good. And I thought Aaron Rodgers was really, really insightful in talking about it tonight and what has made it good. It's just when you can stop the run with a light box, it does a lot in this league. And the Packers under Mike Pettin, they tried to stop the run with the light box and they never could because what they ended up doing was they put an extra DB on the field and made him an inside linebacker. And instead, you got the same number of DBs, but instead of having an inside linebacker, you got an extra defensive lineman and one fewer inside linebacker. So they're a lot more stout up front, but you still have that same athleticism on the back end with the coverage and a lot of two shell and those sort of things. So it's been a very successful scheme through 10 games. It's kind of amazing, Kassidy. It looks nothing like a top 10 defense in that opener. I mean, to just go back to what Jameis Winston did on this defense, it's like another season ago. It doesn't make any sense, but the way they responded has been really impressive.
Yeah. Matt LaFleur said as much tonight. He said it's crazy to think back on that week 1 and even week 2 to what they are now, which is really sort of a strength of this team. However, they also have one of the best to ever do it at quarterback. They got him back tonight. I think after seeing what a game looked like without him last week, he was even more appreciated tonight. He did get a standing ovation as he left the field. He said afterwards he walked off pretty misty-eyed, just kind of got emotional being welcomed back and getting this win. How much of a difference did it make just having him out there tonight, even when he was admittedly, as he himself said, a little rusty and behind the 8 ball as the game got going?
Well, it made a huge difference in how the Seahawks lined up to play Aaron Rodgers, because there wasn't jailbreak blitz every single snap like it was against Jordan Love. That in and of itself made a huge difference. From there, it's just a guy. Look, he didn't do much more than manage the game tonight. I mean, he hit a big 41-yarder, but he's wide. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was wide open. Frankly, Aaron Rodgers missed a 4 touchdown on that play. He didn't do a lot of from an explosive. I mean, he looked like a guy who had just gotten over COVID-19 and hadn't practiced. Anybody, even Aaron Rodgers, is going to struggle against coronavirus. It's a pretty formidable opponent. And he saw that from Aaron Rodgers tonight. With that said, he managed the game. He kept this team, this offense in favorable positions, didn't do too much, and he changed the way that the Seahawks played them defensively compared to the Chiefs. And all those things were a testament to Aaron Rodgers.
And he said, like as we kind of referenced a minute ago, he said after the game that, he was a little behind and tired, and it had gotten to him not practicing all week. So he knew this was going to be tough, and it maybe even surprised him a little bit how tough it was to come back. But that being said, something else that Matt LaFleur gave him credit for in the return was just how much of a difference it made in the locker room. Having him back in the locker room, on the sideline, in the huddle, can you really overstate how important he is in that aspect?
Well, he's a team leader. He's a guy that a lot of people in locker room respect and trust. So, regardless of his opinions off the field, he's a veteran voice on it. So, I think having him back, and the other thing too, there's a sense of calm because of what Rodgers has done in this league. When he's on the field, he's that guy that has come through so many times that you just feel like it's going to happen again. So when it was close early tonight, having an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback compared to having a Jordan Love, who might one day be a great quarterback, we have no idea, but he's brand spanking new. It's a huge difference.
A couple of people have asked about DK grabbing the face mask and Carlos Dunlap throwing the shoe. Will they be fined for that? I mean, my God, the NFL fined CeeDee Lamb for not having his shirt tucked in the right angle. So I'm sure they will be fined as well. Did it shock you how chippy this game got? Because Matt LaFleur said they prepared for it. They prepared for
it's
it.
Packers Seahawks, not really. You know what? You could probably speak on it better than me. I was like this when that happened. It happened late in the game, and late in the game for me, I've got my nose in the computer and I'm trying to file the story. So I missed most of it. I really
actually missed the DK thing as well. I was down here in the press conference room getting set up.
There you go.
I just kind of heard it over the play-by-play.
But Matt LaFleur said give Henry Black a lot of credit because the guy doesn't usually just stand there and take that. I don't know what that was. I'll be honest. I didn't see it. So you know better than I do because I was working at that point. But
it had been getting a little, like you saw plays take a little bit longer, or you saw players take a little bit longer to walk back to the huddle as the game went on, at just exchanging words. I'm trying to think. Kevin King, I know, got into it with a receiver at one point. Devontae Adams had somebody get in his face in an end zone at one point. And so I guess it wasn't too surprising that it escalated. I guess just what surprised me, maybe this is just not having been around this rivalry as much, was how much the Packers knew it was coming.
Yeah, they do.
You know, prepared for it.
The most interesting part about that is that there's so few that were here in 2012 and 2014. That's where the rivalry really stems from. I was here in 2014, but there's so few players that were here in 2012 and 2014. So, but it's still Packers Seahawks. I mean, it's still one of the, it's Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. It's going to be one of those chippy games. The way Pete Carroll coaches, the identity of his teams are always very chippy. You know that coming in. So not a surprise. It's funny. Like my vantage point of the skirmish was riding, and I hear commotion. Oh, there's something happening. Oh, and then back there, like I missed the fun.
Yeah.
I missed it.
You at least want to see the fight.
I know, right? Fight.
I did see though. DK tried to run back in for a play.
Did he really?
Yeah, he got ejected.
I
and then
missed
he tried
that
to
too.
run back on the field for a play.
That's funny.
That was pretty funny.
I give him credit. I mean, I know you're a Packers fan. You probably don't, but I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'd do the same thing.
Do it.
Forget the rules.
He stop you and
be a rebel.
Yeah. Last thing, there was a question in here that was actually pretty significant. Depending on how significant Aaron Jones' injury is, do you think they look outside the building for running back depth, or are they okay with Patrick Taylor there?
I think they stay here for now if it's a 3 to 4, maybe 5 week thing. If it's more than that, you might have to consider it. But if it's a normal MCL, which is MCL is going to be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. If that's what it is, I think they stand pat. It's if AJ Dillon's about to get a lot of work. If AJ Dillon goes down,
tonight.
if AJ Dillon goes down, that's when you got some issues. Patrick Taylor's not going to be the lead horse.
And it's Aaron Jones. This is not something you want experience in, but this is not his first MCL injury. This is what his fourth.
Pete Doherty was saying 4 tonight. I thought it was 3. I'm guessing Pete's right. I can only remember. I know each of his first 2 seasons he missed like 4 games apiece with an MCL. There must have been another one that I'm forgetting. I haven't looked it up yet.
Tom, our other coworker, said something about one at the end of a season, so he didn't miss any games. So this will be his 4th. If nothing else, he knows how to recover from them.
He's had a lot of experience with MCLs. There's no question about that. Yeah. It looks scary at the time. They dodged one there. Yeah. That's a big. They definitely dodged one there. And the unfortunate thing for this offense is that Kylan Hill has the torn ACL, because Kylan Hill had been really impressing as a rookie before returning that kickoff in Arizona. And had he, they kind of like AJ Dillon last year with behind Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. He was been impressing, and you just weren't able to get him touches and opportunities. Same thing with Kylan Hill behind Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Had he been healthy now, this would be a huge opportunity for Kylan Hill. The Packers would feel awfully confident with their backup to AJ Dillon, and you could really keep a lot of the same elements into the offense. This is going to change some things, not having Aaron Jones, even if it's more short-term to intermediate with the MCL. It's going to change some things.
Matt LaFleur does meet with us tomorrow afternoon. I'm sure we will know more after then. Until then, stick with Packers News and stick with Packers News. I'm sorry, for complete coverage as the Packers finish up. We finish recapping the win over the Seahawks and get ready for a road trip to see the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sure I'm going to be bugging the guys singing Lizzo all week. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.